That timeline is way too short.
The United Nations Migration Organization said today at least 13,000 people have massed on Turkey's land border with Greece. I'm Christopher Cruz.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson. Attention! If you've had hernia surgery and have experienced complications such as chronic pain, infection, wound reopening, mesh migration, bowel obstruction, need revision surgery, or other complications, you may be entitled to significant cash compensation. Hernia repair surgery is common and requires a mesh product to be implanted inside your body. In May of 2016, the manufacturer of a popular hernia mesh product issued a mandatory global recall due to product defects. If you've had hernia surgery and have experienced complications, you may be entitled to significant cash compensation. Call the Hernia Mesh Helpline now at 800-245-5187. Our experienced attorneys will fight to get you the compensation you deserve. You pay nothing unless we get a recovery in your favor. Time is limited to file a claim, so call the Hernia Mesh Helpline now, 800-245-5187. Operators are standing by 24/7. Call 800-245-5187. That's 800-245-5187.
WACE Chicopee and WCRN Worcester.
I'm Rev Peter Preble, host of Faith in America on WCRN 830 AM. On Faith in America, we hold conversations at the crossroads of faith and society. Faith in America, Sunday mornings at 6 a.m., right here on WCRN.
Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Lavache, you're all set with your mortgage. And I assume you understand what you just signed.
A stack of papers, George?
That's right. And for future, just call this number if you need anything. And, ooh, yeah, I'm gonna need that pen back.
The mortgage process can be confusing. Looking for the right rate, the right term, and most importantly, the right place to get your mortgage. At Clinton Savings Bank, we are committed to getting the mortgage that's right for you. You may even receive up to a $750 credit off your closing costs. Plus, right now, you can lock in the rate from your pre-qualification for 90 days while you look for a home. So what are you waiting for? Definitely not this.
Oh, boy. Hi, Mrs. Lavache. How can I help? You're breaking up. Try again later.
Subject to credit approval. Offer may be withdrawn at any time. For complete details, exclusions, and credit cost and terms, call 888-744-4272. Apply at clintonsavings.com. NMLS number 422081. Member FDIC. Member DIF. Equal housing lender.
I want to tell you what Cantiani Insurance has been able to do for me and Teddy. We stopped in to see Paul Sr. and the great staff at 318 Plantation Street. They've been handling my car and business insurance for years. Teddy was making his way around the office, and they let me know. They now offer pet insurance. For a fraction of what one visit to the vet was for Teddy, they could cover him for a whole year. I know you treat your furry family members like any other family member, and as well as I do Teddy. The professional staff at Cantiani's has been providing courteous service for over 40 years, with integrity and personalized service, making sure that your insurance actually protects you and your family. With 2 locations, the 318 Plantation Street in Worcester and East Douglas Insurance Agency, located at 306 Main Street in Douglas. For home, auto, business insurance, and now pet insurance, click CantianiAgency.com or call 508-791-2088. 508-791-2088.
So are you tired of being tired? Well, then it's time to get the tea. Hey, it's Lisa here to tell you about this all-natural, all-organic tea I've been drinking that has had great results for over 20 years. It's called Life Change Tea, and it's specially formulated to help detoxify and cleanse your kidneys, liver, colon, and blood all at once. The colon is one of the most ignored organs in the human body. The faster that waste is eliminated from the body, the less time that waste sits in our intestines, spreading toxins to our bloodstream. This tea helps cleanse chemicals caused by outside intruders from our entire digestive system, and get this, weight loss can be a side effect. And with continued use of the tea, you can experience clearer, healthier, younger-looking skin, increased energy, and a happier outlook on life. So if you're tired of being tired, get the Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. And like me, you'll be glad you did.
This is the Joe Mangiacotti Show. Our topics are large and small. When you really need to know, we
Good morning, folks, and welcome to the Joe Mangiacotti Show. I am Joe Mangiacotti, and this is AM 830 WCRN and AM 730 WACE. You can also follow us or join us on the TuneIn app and live streaming there, so you can take us anywhere. That's right. If you don't have TuneIn, it takes seconds to download. Punch in WCRN, and there you are. Take us anywhere. You can also reach out to the show. Our business office number is 508-603-9778. And our business email is joemshow@gmail.com. But you can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Lines are open and available. And our text line is 617-297-8388. Text us like you would text anyone. 508-297-8388, or email textjoeintheradio@gmail.com, and I get it on the same screen in real time, and we'll be able to respond or talk about it on the air. That was a fantastic debut show in hour one there of Faith in America, Cameo Media production. It's a show that we've decided to put on Sunday mornings going forward. 6 to 7 o'clock will be Faith in America. And then I'll join you at 7. And we do have another show coming very shortly for the 7 o'clock hour, which will make an announcement not too distant future here. Good morning, Cam. I don't expect you to talk. I know you're it's not the corona or anything, right? It's just a sore throat. So he's nodding, everyone. He's happy to be here. This is the highlight of his week. Since he can't talk, I'm going to put words in his mouth. But coronavirus, by the way. So we'll talk a little bit about that, because the Washington State, the first fatality in the United States connected to the COVID-19 has happened. So there's going to be a little bit, I think there'll be a little bit of shift in the country right now. I mean, the thing about the president's press conference regarding that the other day, like everything else, it depends whether or not you're a fan of the president, how you viewed it. People want to criticize, but those are the people who criticize him from the get. They're already trying to figure out how to criticize him or how to twist whatever it is he said or done before he even opens his mouth. Bottom line is, and this came up on the panel on Friday morning, and my feeling on that is the president did what a president should do: reassure the people that everything will be fine. Remember, to keep this in perspective, I know this is spreading, but who has been affected in this country, and even the one death, is still an extremely minute percentage of the issues we have with the flu every year in this country. So keep that in perspective. But we are saying that you need to follow the same. Look, I'm maybe not as bad as the president, but I have a thing about the germs as well. I mean, there's wipes in my briefcase all the time, and there's, I just cough into the bend in your elbow, and I never touch. Cam, I don't know. Do you ever? I don't expect you to talk, but nod your head. Do you ever touch the doorknob in a public restroom? I always grab the paper towel or use the pinky if I'm, really kind of without that, because they have the blowers in some of them. Point is, use common sense with that, people, a little bit. All right, 508-871-7000. There are a couple of things I did want to touch on today. We'll get into Massachusetts stuff in a minute. However, this didn't get a lot of attention, but Kentucky Republican flipped a state house seat held by Democrats for 50 years. All right, and that's something that's important, and they're not getting a lot of, press over it, right? Richard White, owner of a lumber business, he's also a former real estate developer in Moorhead, won the District 99 on the 25th. That was a special election. It had 4,750 votes, or 56% of the district. He's going to compete with the unexpired term of Democrat Rocky Adkins, who resigned in December to advise the new Democratic governor in that state. Now, Kentucky is a deeply Republican state, and I think we know that, with GOP supermajorities in both the State House and the Senate. But District 99
was represented by a Democrat at least since since 1970. White said the district was blue possibly since the Civil War era, though the Epoch Times wasn't able to verify that when I read that article. So even in 2016, when the district voted almost 68% in favor of the Republican presidential nominee, right, Donald Trump, that state house seat still remained in Democratic control. So that's an important seat or indication. If it was the other way around, we'd be hearing nonstop about that and what that meant. But it's important that happens. I think that, and disagree with me, 508-871-7000, that we have a great number of people who have been on the fence, and even Democrats I've spoken to, who are very upset with the last 3, almost 4 years of the Democratic House just seeming to go after the president more than taking care of the people's business. Even now there's rumbling, right? They just are trying to get that getcha moment every time you turn around. And a lot of people, Democrats meaning, have had enough of this. They're just done. Stop it. And I think that's part of the message that's being sent, or will be sent in November. All right, obviously, let's talk about the fact that we had South Carolina's primary yesterday, and Joe Biden did, in fact, do very, very well. Now, he talked about this. He said he was going to win it with no problem. He said that it was his firewall, and he ended up taking the majority of percentage-wise. But don't forget, still, the battle for the delegates is still in play. If you were looking at a big scale of this, the delegates wrapped up right now, including Bernie Sanders, is just like a sliver on a thermometer-type board. And so he has a great, they all do have still a lot of play here. And Tuesday, with Super Tuesday, will also knock a few people out, or should knock a few people out. Look, Bernie's been here in Massachusetts, right, all weekend. And why? Why do that? I mean, it's Massachusetts, and it's to put the nail in the coffin for Elizabeth Warren and just tell her definitively it's time for you to step down, stop running for president. Will she endorse Bernie Sanders? Who will she support? Will she hold that back until they're officially the nominee? And is this enough for Joe Biden to, even if he raised a mess of money from yesterday, today, tomorrow, you can do some last minute radio, right? You can do, some phone banking and stuff like that. But there's not a lot you can do media-wise in a couple of days for Super Tuesday. So the question is, will it change, his great victory yesterday? And we can, discuss why he went so big in South Carolina. But the question becomes, what will happen on Super Tuesday, and is Joe Biden still in this race in 4 days? I guess that's yet to be seen. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. And, of course, our text line is 617-297-8388. Lieutenant, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Colonel Joe. Lieutenant Ken reporting.
And what's on the roster today, Lieutenant?
Well, I'll just follow what you just last said. I don't know if people have figured out what's going on. It's a big change just from a week ago, and I'm not talking about coronavirus. That's a separate issue, but just politically, what's going on in the opposition party and what explains yesterday.
Well, what do you think that Joe Biden, it's not a surprise. I think the question wasn't if he was going to win in South Carolina. It was just going to be, well, what's the margin he wins by, but who really comes in second, third type of thing. Steyer wrapped it up. Steyer had a great showing in South Carolina, but I think the writing, he sees the writing on the wall, and why not? I mean, the guy is actually a businessman, and he gets it. He should be somebody who understands you don't throw good money after bad money. You know, like any other businessman, you pull the plug on a business or venture if it's not having the right return. He pulled the plug. Elizabeth Warren doesn't come from that mentality. She's not that ilk. So what's she going to do? Maybe it takes Bernie knocking her out of her own state on Tuesday type of thing. So the question is what does this mean? We knew Joe was going to win. He won well, very good, right? Great margin. But can he go the distance? Can he get the fundraisers? He was running on fumes going into this, right? So what's your take on that?
No, Joe's not leaving.
Yeah, he's going to. You think
All right,
he's
so
going to stay?
here's the big story. There's a massive schism in their party between blacks and the cultural left.
Good observation, because we have...
That's what this huge story, and why doesn't everybody just say, hey, this is reality?
Yeah.
This is a black versus the rest of that party issue.
Because I think that this is the first time, Ken, right, that the Democratic left realizes, or whether they realize it or not, but we see it happening, that they don't have that blatant blanket stronghold on the black vote in this country anymore.
Well, the point is, where do the cultural extreme left versus the blacks go after this is over? I mean, there's a massive, what happens in Milwaukee, you know, that by itself is a massive story. But when that's finished, there is a group that's either not going to show up, or in the case of the blacks, a good chunk of them are going to go Trump.
Yes.
Because they just will not stand for Bernie.
No, and I got to tell you, I mean, you know, Bernie, remember that all of this, people, it's all just the Democrats and the leftists and progressives who are dealing with all this. But when you put Bernie out there in the general, and you have months of Trump and Sanders, that's a whole nother ballgame. I mean, that's just a whole different world, because now you're speaking, you know, the people who are listening to Bernie right now are you know, young people with college, and all they're hearing is wipe out my college debt, free college, they'll take care of my health, all this stuff, and they don't get it. But when you start, that's the message you're trying to deliver to middle America and the normal everyday American out there, then they know to say, wait a minute, let's say, who's paying for this? Even if you take the numbers off of Bernie's own site, we're talking upwards of $60 trillion. And Bernie just wants to say, I'm not going to count the nickels and dimes here, because they're not his nickels and dimes. And don't forget, guys, I mean, he never checks, you know, pay more on my tax. He takes advantage of every tax deduction he can. Right? He gives very little to charity, so he doesn't practice what he preaches. So when you put that message out there and you have Bernie trying to sell, it becomes capital. I mean, Donald Trump is a great icon, a great avatar for capitalism versus socialism. And it still gets me that the Democrats are looking to put someone who's not even a Democrat on the top of their ticket. Why?
Bingo, that's the big issue right there.
Why is that even allowed? Like, what? How come that isn't a problem? How come nobody on the debate says, you know, except Buttigieg? He did bring that up at one point, but he didn't go right after Bernie. He just said, what am I, the only Democrat really up here? And why? How is that even allowed? I mean, why aren't the rules, look, if you want to run for the Democratic nomination, you have to be in the Democratic Party.
But, Joe, that means the most of anything to blacks. Missing the key issue here is what is important to the black community versus the rest of the opposition party community. There's a massive schism.
Yeah.
They believe in loyalty. What is Bernie all about? Bernie's about burn it down. Yeah. He's not loyal to anything other than a massive shift in what the United States stands for. That's not loyalty.
And
so
what are the
not accept him The black community makes up 30+% of that opposition party.
Yeah.
Massive schism. It's like a Grand Canyon as to that what's left of that party. It's like one side is thinking totally different than the other side. They can't coexist. They use the word coexist, and yet they can't.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I got to tell you, depending on who you talk to, because, Candace Owens, she's out there, and she's saying that it's going to be, upwards of 20% of blacks leaving the Democratic Party. That would be, she's talking over 20%. I've said for the last 2 years that a 4% move in the needle on the black vote would devastate the Democratic voting bloc. And what do they have if they go with this administration? Well, they have the lowest unemployment for blacks since we kept records. We've had not only has the average income has risen $4,000 during this administration, it's actually higher for black families. We have the economic zones, the opportunity zones that have been created. That makes a difference, and that speaks to the real business leaders in the black community. We have the criminal justice reform. These are things that you would have thought would have been done by the first black president of the United States, not Donald Trump, but they have, and that means a lot. And we're going to see it. I know that in South Carolina, right, there was a relationship that Biden had with the congressman down there, and that he swayed a lot of votes. But now we're talking about Super Tuesday, and we're talking when we get to the general. And if Bernie Sanders is, because what do you think is going to happen come convention time? Do you think the Democratic Party is going to allow Bernie to actually head up their ticket, or do you think between superdelegates and brokered that they will not allow that?
We don't know. No.
Yeah.
It's a totally different picture from a week ago. Totally.
Yeah.
And so I go to the 538 and get all the detailed numbers. I'm a big numbers person, and this is massive change. It isn't anything that Joe is still dawdling mess. It's just culturally, the blacks can't buy Bernie. That's the big story, and you're not going to hear many people mention it because they don't dare, talk about the differences races, and yet there's a massive cultural difference. As much as the media has tried to shove their extreme leftism down our throat, it's accepted largely in the Northeast because the Northeast, particularly New England, has become a place for the culturally left to go. We were the first to, for instance, to have gay marriage. So, and we have huge academia, which is a big part of what Bernie's all about. It's the academic, cultural Marxism. The blacks they don't have anything to do about it. So all you have to do is look state by state and say, okay, what's the black population? Okay, if the black population is at least 30%, let's say the black population is at least 20% of that state's population, that's Biden. Nothing that Biden's good about. It's just they're not going to touch Bernie, so they're going to go with the guy who's now the old Democrat Party, is Biden, as much as he's a shell of himself.
Yeah. How long do you think that Mayor Pete will hold on there? Because he had a pretty good showing in South Carolina yesterday.
Okay. All right. Now, you want to talk about all the other candidates? Yeah. I'm predicting none of them leave.
Wow.
Steyer's the only one leaves. So you're left with 6. You know why? Because they look at this and say, nobody's going to win at the end of this. So who's to say that somebody in the party leadership says, okay, then it's going to be you? So who's to say that Liz says, hey, the media has loved me. I've been the candidate back in October. I was the one.
Yeah.
So let's say something happens to Bernie for health. Yeah. Boom, I'm the one.
Plus, she put a press release out the other day that if she's actually the nominee, she'll change her shirt. So that's good for Elizabeth
Change her what?
Her shirt. Elizabeth Warren. She wears the same outfit on every debate, every stop.
I hadn't noticed.
Yeah, crazy. But anyway, I attempt to joke there. But yeah, you're right. Okay, that's a good point. because why drop out knowing that if it wasn't Bernie, right, if it was somebody else with that kind of momentum that, A, was an actual Democrat, wasn't a socialist, and didn't have the problems that he has, and the fact that they know that the powers within the Democratic Party don't want Bernie. They know what show that would be in a general, and they know that they would basically, pretty definitely lose the general. Why not? That's a good way of looking at it. Why not hold on? Why not be there, right, when it comes time to let the convention say, "You're it. You've got the you've got the campaign set up. We'll direct all of our monies to you. You've got organizations, and go there." But Elizabeth Warren, and this didn't get a lot of time in the news. Ken, what was it? 11 black women walked out of her Nevada office. Was it 11?
Well,
I think it was 11.
Organizational problem.
Yeah. So she has a lot of.
They're all. Every single one of them are very flawed. Now, the only candidate actually of the remaining 6 that could drop out is Bloomberg.
I think Bloomberg might drop out. Well, he keeps saying.
If he looks at it and says, "Okay, they're never going to hand it over to me," then why spend $1 billion?
Well, but he committed. First of all, he committed that he was going to continue to spend money whether he was it or not. That he would throw it behind whoever it was. But the other part of it is, does he not have a little bit of the same billionaire ego that Donald Trump has? That he just can't. That if they don't want to give it to him, it's because they're idiots and not because it's the right thing, and that he will continue to throw money at it and do what he has to do to try to get it? Or will he say, "Let me step back, and here's $100 million for your nominee"?
Okay, here's the logic behind Bloomberg. It's is there a way that Biden just flat out falls apart? I guess that's about the only logic.
Well, there's a
state.
Yeah, we're going to take a break here. We can pick this up on the other side. But and I was defending Biden a week and a half ago when he was spoke and so forth. But then for a solid week, he continued. And I was on the panel Friday, and they were trying to tell me that this was all look, a lot of pressure. No, he's been in politics far too long to be rattled. And when he thinks he's running for Senate, not the presidency, when he forgets where he is, when he talks about, working out the deal with the Chinese president that's been dead for 19 years, and he doesn't catch it, $150 million, and I understand that's a slip of the tongue, but it never registered that was. Now, I really think that there's more there than just misspeak once in a while, but that's up for the people to determine. But we're 30 minutes after the hour, so we're going to take a break here. It's time for Case Files from the LPDAM. That's right, Licensed Private Detective Association of Massachusetts. We're going to check in with Sean Burke, president of LPDAM and resident manager of Courtside Legal Investigations. So we'll be back on the other side. Good morning and welcome to Case Files from the LPDAM, where we take a look at the lessons from actual cases, the law behind the findings, and where we share the experiences of the experts of the Private Detectives Association of Massachusetts. And on this edition of Case Files of the LPDAM, we're joined by Sean Burke, who is president of the Licensed Private Detective Association of Massachusetts and resident manager for Courtside Investigation. Good morning, Sean.
Good morning, Joe.
How are we?
Very good today.
Fantastic. So I thought in this week's edition that we would talk about the intersection of mental health with investigations, and I thought this would be a great topic for you to tackle because you have actually incorporated a lot of social services with your investigation or investigation skills in agency and have really done some unique things in the industry and even created programs that did not exist before, which of course I guess is the definition of creating something. Let's talk a little bit about that. Can you get into the intersection of mental health services and investigations?
Well, Joe, I'd like your listeners to know that the pilot program that I've been working on in the district courts is now in 14 different courts. What I've been able to find is that many individuals with mental health disabilities are at a greater risk of experiencing drug addiction, being criminally charged, and ultimately incarcerated. The district courts are full of individuals who fall in this category. A licensed private investigator can help with separating fact from fiction through gathering data in the field, educating the lawyer on field issues, and with assisting in getting positive outcomes from a relatively negative situation. LPDM member businesses are well skilled in this process of turning negatives into positives. By using an LPDM member, you know you're getting a professional, a business that cares about its clientele, and most importantly, Joe, a business that has the tools to help get positive outcomes. If any of your listeners are in a pinch or know someone who is facing criminal charges, I would strongly suggest going to lpdm.org and hit the Find an Investigator tab. Many of our member businesses work with indigent individuals as well. With that said, Joe, money should not be a barrier to get fair representation in court, so don't limit your defense. Reach out to an LPDM member at lpdm.org. Oftentimes, many criminal defendants have difficulty communicating with their lawyer. This leads to less than positive results. With a licensed private investigator, you're in good hands with an LPDM member.
Thank you, Sean. That's fantastic. Do you have an example? Can you share a story maybe where your investigation skills crossed over to your social services or mental health background? And you're in a unique position. Not all investigators have social service or social worker background, but you're able to merge these two together. You have an example or story you can share how those two skills came together to help a client?
Sure. We have a pilot program that's working in the district courts, as I brought up a little earlier. And that pilot program is designed to be able to take field work, the private investigator, where more traditional type work, interview witnesses. Also, on the social service side, to be able to work with the medical records of the individual, bring all that information together, educate the lawyer on it, because they don't go to law school to humanize the client. Actually, that's my job. The lawyer then, at that point, can actually bring this in front of the judge, and the judge, who oftentimes is involved on trying to find a positive outcome. All of these things come together, and what we find is very positive results in the district courts. For 18 months, this is working out very well. So hopefully it will continue.
All right. Well, that's fantastic. Sean, thanks for joining us again for Case Files from the LPDAM. We look forward to this every week.
Yeah, thank you very much, Joe, and thanks to your listeners.
Fantastic. That will wrap it up for this week's edition of Case Files from the LPDAM. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you to your listeners.
And thank you for joining us for Case Files from the LPDAM. Join us each week here on WCRN 830 AM and online anytime at lpdamcasefiles.com. And visit us at lpdam.org. And you can find LPDAM on Facebook and Twitter at PINMass and anytime at 800-955-6274. For Sean, I'm Joe Mangiacotti.
This is the Joe Mangiacotti Show. We are the show you want to know. It's time to talk to Joe.
All right, folks, welcome back to the final segment of today's show, a shortened edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show, because we debuted another Cameo Media production, Faith in America, from 6 to 7 going forward. Every Sunday morning, Faith in America with Reverend Peter Preble will join us, and it will be a pre-produced show after today, and you'll be able to follow it on Facebook as well as Twitter, and always check the Cameo Media Facebook page to find out the latest shows and events going on with Cameo Media. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation, 508-871-7000, and don't forget that we do have a text line up and available at 617-297-8388. 617-297-8388, and you can also email textjoeintheradio@gmail.com, and it's the same screen that it appears at. All right, so obviously the Super Tuesday, we're all watching to see what happens. Lieutenant Ken's making a good point that no one is going to drop out because the leader is Bernie Sanders, who's not even a Democrat and does have a lot of baggage and issues. And the party, Democratic Party, knows that it's a pretty much given how the general would go if Bernie was the nominee and the candidate going forward. There's a couple other things that I got to throw in there. Look at voter fraud has always been an issue for me. I talk about this a lot. I'm totally for voter ID. There's no valid reason that we should not have voter ID at all It makes no sense to me that something that we say is so important and so valuable, yet we have no protections on it whatsoever. We have the Democratic Party being obsessed with foreign interference, but they want to have no border security, open the borders, and then let non-citizens vote. That's major foreign interference. There's a reason the Founding Fathers set it up. The reason the Founding Fathers said to run for president, you need to have this lineage. There are those reasons. Okay? So now we have voter fraud, who we're trying to be told is just a myth and doesn't exist. Well, let's look at Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, near Pittsburgh, there's a county there, right? This just, and again, you're not going to see this on a MSM, major, market news. 1,583 dead people registered to vote. 1,583 dead people on the register. 7,500 of them, of people, not of the dead people, 7,500 people in Pennsylvania flagged as duplicate voters. And that's when, people will go to different town halls and they register to vote. They're not crossing, right? They're not references. It's not necessarily it's a state database. So 7,500 flagged duplicate voters. They also found 50 people born in the 1800s. Now, I know we're living longer, folks, and we have vitamins and antioxidants, and we've got the tea, from Get the Tea. We've got all that. But I don't know if we have anybody alive born in the 1800s that I know of. So that's just one example of voter fraud taking place. Right? There was another example I gave not too long ago that they found somewhere else, but it's out there. In the voter, we're always fighting people to vote. We've explained this over and over again that incumbents do not want high voter turnout, by the way, right? They do want voter suppression because they want to be able to, just their voting base to go out and vote. 508-871-7000. Let's go to Jim in Worcester. Good morning, Jim. Thanks for calling in and thanks for listening.
Yeah, more than just the fraud. I mean, they have been building up the Democratic vote by this immigration. That's obviously this illegal alien immigration. They've been building up the fraud. That's why California, New York, the Northeast, they've stuffed those cities. They haven't stuffed the Midwest yet with them. But also, the other big threat that you should be worried about, and we should all be worried about, is the fact that it only takes about 9 billionaires to tank the market. All you got to do is a 9-box tanking of the market, where you short sell the 9 things, where you do the growth, income, the growth, value, and blend, and also the large, small, and mid-cap stocks. You need 9 billionaires. That's all you do to tank the market, is to set up momentum for it to go down. And that's what I think they're doing right now. I mean, they're hyping this virus.
Yeah,
they're hyping the virus to bring the market down.
And Jim, are you saying because they've really realized that the absolute only chance that they have of affecting this president is a horrible economy?
Yeah, and they really don't care. I don't think they care.
Well, look at one of their biggest cheerleaders over on that side, right? I mean, you got Bill Maher literally saying, well, if it's going to hurt Trump and maybe get rid of him, bring on the depression, bring it on. He's in that Hollywood bubble, right? He's not going to feel anything.
And, I know they want to downplay Jefferson because Jefferson was a slave owner, and I agree with them. I'm not a Jefferson holdover or anything like that, but he did write the fact that what we Americans owe to each other. That's our lives, our fortune, and our sacred honor. How does that come into play when you're tanking the market? You're opening up our borders and the rest of it. That's the most immoral way there. Mm-hmm. And Jim McGovern is the biggest clown on the planet. He hasn't gone over to Central America to preach agriculture. He's gone over there to recruit illegal voters, point blank.
Well, again, you can't find too much of a bigger cheerleader for voter ID in voter security. I think that the voter rolls should be purged on a regular basis. If you are not registered, if you're not confirmed with who you are, that you're removed. It has to be. And then anybody can literally walk. I have voted in Worcester for years. I have never, ever, ever been asked anything. ID or a piece of mail, nothing. Name, street, check it off, here's your ballot. Anyone could have done that.
When's it going to start happening when conservatives now all of a sudden don't get their absentee ballots? Especially in a state like this, it's controlled by the minions of Democratic leaders.
Well, look, there have been a lot of cases of that, right? The absentee ballots have disappeared, mostly in the 2016 and even the 2012 with the military. Remember, there was a big issue with the absentee ballots for service people because they tend to vote conservative, right? They tend to vote for the Republican.
You're
Not
right,
always, but they play the numbers. They play the odds there that there's a good chance.
But it's so obvious that Democrats can't have American citizens vote for them. They can't count on the American citizens. Nobody wants communism. Nobody wants. We fought a war against the fascists. I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
And they can't do it, so they've got to cheat.
That's out there, right? The Democrats are afraid that the citizens will interfere with the 2020 election.
I didn't hear that one. That's good, though.
Yeah, so it's crazy. But all right, Jim, thank you. Anything else you want to get off before?
No, I could sit here all day long and do it, but it just drives my blood pressure crazy.
I know what you mean, man. I know what you mean.
Okay.
Thanks for listening, though.
You too.
All right, Jim in Worcester. Awesome. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. This is the Joe Mangiacotti Show. We're on AM 830 and AM 730, as well as live streaming on the TuneIn app. So, breaking news here. 3 Chinese nationals were apprehended trying to cross the southern border illegally, and each had flu-like symptoms, and the Border Patrol quickly quarantined them and assessed any threat of the coronavirus. Our weak border is a health risk. Right? It is a health risk, and it's always been one of the reasons why we need this. Don't add wall where I'm saying this. I'm saying we need defined borders and secure borders because we're a sovereign nation, and there's a reason that we want to know who's coming in and out of the country, and health reasons is one of them. One of them. So federal agents arrested the driver of a moving truck. This is how they did it, folks. A moving truck at the southern United States border after finding nearly a dozen Chinese migrants. They were hiding inside the furniture, inside the vehicle. You can go to the Joe Mangiacotti Show page to get the article. U.S. Customs and Border Patrol officers inspected the truck when it arrived on Saturday night at the San Guazado port of entry in San Diego, California, and it was trying to come into the country. And the officers searched the contents of the vehicle, and they discovered the immigrants concealed within various pieces of furniture and appliances, including a wooden chest, a dresser, and a washing machine. So they took the barrel with the agitator out of the machine and made it a secret compartment, I guess is the best way to put that. Now, the driver is a 42-year-old U.S. citizen. He was taken into custody and later transported to San Diego's Metropolitan Correction Center to await criminal proceedings. And federal authorities have placed an immigration hold on the 11 Chinese nationals for the pending criminal and immigration proceedings. All right. Now, the director of field operations for Customs and Border, Pete Flores, he said that they cannot stress enough the dangers of smuggling people. And that's the other side of this, folks, on the illegal entry and smuggling. The coyotes, right? They're criminals to begin with. So they abuse and take advantage of these people who are trying to get to this country. And yes, those are a lot of the people who are trying to come here for a better life, but they're not doing it the right way. And they are assaulted sexually, right? We know about, and We've talked about this before. We've shown the pictures of what they call the rape tree. Along the way, they are charging these people ridiculous amounts of money and then often hold them for ransom on the other side, that they up the bill and they got to come up with more money to be let free once they get them across the border. It's a very dangerous trek. We know that that children are being used by cartels and smugglers to come over, and we saw this, actually drop a little bit when they started doing instant DNA testing at the border, and a lot of these people just knew they were going to get caught and said, actually, it's not my kid. It's not biologically my son or daughter. They've just been paid by the cartel or forced to take this child with them so that they're going to be let out when they get to the other side. This is serious stuff that's so dangerous. But the left, who wants to open the borders, and they don't want border security, and they don't want the Border Patrol and Customs to have the authority, much less the money, to do their job, they just don't seem to care about the human trafficking and the sex trafficking and the child endangerment and all of it that goes with this illegal entry into the country, the smuggling that happens. People are dying. Then we've got the health part of this that we're talking about. We have seen illnesses and diseases that we thought we eradicated in this country resurfacing. Just talk. Listen to the Border Patrol people. They'll tell you about this. They're not being listened to or allowed to be voiced in mainstream media. This is important. So you've got the danger, the coyotes, the trafficking, the health part of it. Now we've also got the security part of it. Border Patrol has many instances where they say they are finding prayer rugs and prayer beads on these trails that are used, which means, no, everybody coming over the southern border, they're just not all dreamers looking for a better life. We know, in fact, that there are people from other countries, including the Middle East, who are getting to South America and making their way through. And up until Trump intervened, the Mexican government was allowing people to use Mexico as a corridor to get to the border. But because of the USMC trade agreement and this president, they have said, you need to step it up. And the day after the USMCA was signed, the military, the Mexican military started to tighten up their southern border and the pathway. 508-871-7000 and join the conversation. Let's go to Joe in Worcester. Good morning, Joe. Thanks for listening. I'm sorry, did we get Joe? Is he on there, Cam? Joe, maybe he went away from the radio? All right, Joe, you good, Cam? Or is he just not there? All right, Joe, we're going to go to Gene, and we'll come back if you catch this up. Maybe you walked away from the radio. Good morning, Gene.
Good morning, Joe. Unbelievable what's happening.
Which front? Are you talking about the primary, the Democratic thing, the border, the Chinese hidden in the furniture?
It's like I'm shaking my head because, Joe, it is really, it's almost like, is this surreal? I mean, it is so unbelievable what's happening, and that it's gotten to this point, Joe. That I'm shaking my head and praying and do more prayer now because don't do enough, and that's something that I had shared because somebody had said to me, "Oh, you're doing so much, Joe. I'm a dink. I don't do enough. I've tried to get the gospel out there."
Hey, Gene, I think you know what? You listen to the show religiously, no pun intended, and you make the phone calls, right? You will hold signs. You do a lot more than a lot of people do, so I wouldn't say that. I think that if we asked you personally to do something for a cause, I think you'd be the first person there for it. If we had thousands of listeners and people like you would be doing a much better than we already are. So don't beat up yourself. You do great stuff. Real quick, what do you think is going to happen on Super Tuesday? And do you think anyone will wrap it up, including Elizabeth Warren, after Bernie Sanders beats her in Massachusetts?
Well, see, the surreal part is Bernie Sanders. And, but however, Joe, I like his passion. I mean,
Bernie's.
Yeah. I mean,
look at Gene. No question. The man has passion. I don't like being yelled at all the time. He seems like he can't speak. He just yells at everything and everyone. That aside, he does have passion. However, I don't agree with anything that the man says. First of all, he's not even a registered Democrat. He's talking about communism. Stop! Don't give me this democratic communism stuff. Excuse me. I'm sorry, I misspoke. Socialism, democratic socialism. You can't even explain what that is, Bernie. We know that you really mean more of a communist way. You think that the government should run everything. And when he talks about Medicare for all, he's really meaning to do away with the current Medicare system that does a good job for everybody and put the entire country on the single-payer type of insurance, which means that they will forcibly take insurance away from millions upon millions of Americans and force them into this. And we cannot do that as a country. We will be at the point where bureaucrats decide whether or not you get that medication or you get that procedure, and there's going to be 9-month, 10-month waiting lists like they do have in Canada and other places. And all we have to look at is all of these other countries that have this socialized medicine, and where do people with means and even their politicians and icons come here for their procedures, for their operations. So nobody wants that. When that hits a general election and Bernie's the candidate, you might as well just swear Donald Trump in the day after the nominee is named.
Right, and that's what they're mad about. Because, see, Joe, what essentially is happening is that they're all condescending to the communist, but they're doing it in different ways. Okay, that is really their agenda, Joe. Okay, so this is what we all have to be aware of. I like Bernie because I love Jesus. Jesus comes out with the tough stuff. Count the cost. Follow me. What we have to do for Jesus. But I love him for that because of the fact that you know what he's about. Do you want this?
That's fine. I do know what he's about, and I don't like anything about him.
And I
agree.
And I agree.
And that's it. Look, we have to keep things real, and we have to keep things American, an American way. We are a unique country, and we can't take away the things that make us a special country. We can't take away the things that make people hide in washing machines and in furniture and pay coyotes and risk their lives to make the trek to this country, because no matter what, the bottom line is they still know it's the best choice on the planet, and it's the best possible way that you can make a better life for yourself, is to get to this country, because we have seen people who born into circumstances in other countries never would have become president of the United States, never would have become a multi-billionaire, never would have achieved the things that they achieve. And I'm not even talking about the Steyers and the Bloombergs and the Trumps of the world. I'm talking about the people with the 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath Garrison Colonial in Middle America who are having a good life. They have a retirement account. They vacation a couple times a year. They raise their kids and educate their kids. That's an American dream, and that's what about anybody can do if they want to do that in this country. Gene, thank you, though, but I got to move on because we got it full lines. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Let's go to Mark in Worcester. Good morning, sir. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, good morning, Joe. Briefly, on this situation that you said about these Chinese foreign nationals that were apprehended at the southern border, if they are re-released back out onto the streets by the authorities in California, the authorities in California should be arrested and thrown into prison, just like that judge in Massachusetts. Now, until we have an attorney general that is willing to do this and puts his foot down and starts enforcing the laws, this situation is not going to be rectified. It's going to continue ad infinitum. Have a good one, Joe.
All right, thank you. Yes, first of all, the difference with, and there is a little difference with these Chinese, these 11 nationals caught in the furniture in a moving truck, is that on top of our normal laws, is that there's a travel ban from China in effect, and that the laws for quarantining will kick in this point. So it's not a matter of them seeking asylum or seeking freedom or trying to enter the country. That kicks in, which by the way, and this was briefly brought up, I think, the other day on the Friday board I sat on there, was somebody made the point about China, how they cracked down and so forth. Make no mistake about it, folks, that the powers that exist for the CDC and the powers that this government has when there is a national health threat are there, meaning quarantine and curfews and restricted travel, if need be, enforced by the National Guard and military. So depending on, I think we're getting ahead of ourselves again. Yes, the coronavirus, there's some unique things to it. People have been dying from it. It has a very long incubation period. I get all of that, but it's still not, it's not Ebola, and it's not, some of the other things we've dealt with in the past. But the powers exist for all of that to kick in. So, Mark, as far as those 11 Chinese migrants that hid in the furniture, their issue with them right now is they're being quarantined for the health reasons because of where they came from. Not because they're Chinese, but because that's the country where it started and that we already have a ban. And the president may have to, increase and add to that travel ban because now we have the first death in the United States in the state of Washington. And basically everything that I've read on that so far was a gentleman, I think, in his late 50s, but they don't have him traveling. That's the interesting thing. He just didn't come back from another country. So that's the question, is that they need to trace that province down, that origin. He didn't come back from China, Italy, Europe, South America, anywhere. He's been in the country. So who did he come in contact with that was a carrier that he was able to, that he ended up getting it? Now, we know that, and this is the type of information that should be out there from the government, is that the elderly and the young are most vulnerable, and that the incubation period can be longer, and depending on your age, it can be longer. But that's going to wrap up today's edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN and AM 730 WACE. Please follow us on social media platforms at Joe Mangi Show, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. It's all there. And I'll be back Thursday, actually, on Jerry Doherty's show, Making Money Last, from 11 to 12 is Political Day on Making Money Last. And I'll join him as I do every week there. All right, folks, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a fantastic day.
WACE Chicopee and WCRN Worcester.
The following is a paid program.
Resounding victory. First U.S. coronavirus death. I'm Christopher Cruz.
This campaign is taking off, so join us.
A huge victory for former Vice President Joe Biden in yesterday's South Carolina Democratic primary.
Just days ago, the press and the pundits had declared this candidacy dead. Now, thanks to all of you, the heart of the Democratic Party, we just won, and we've won big because of you.
Biden won 48% of the votes, Bernie Sanders 20%. Biden is now the first candidate to score a clear victory over Sanders. Coming in third was Tom Steyer. He dropped out of the race last night. The governor of Washington has declared a state of emergency after a man died in Kirkland. It's the first such reported death in the